Hi, biology class. Welcome to the new world where we will be doing your lectures online sometimes. So here we go. This lecture is called Populations, and we are going to look at different populations and what affects a population. So, what is population ecology? It's the study of how and why populations change. And then you say, what's a population? That's a group of individuals of a single species that occupy the same general area. All right. So one thing that can have an effect on populations and interactions is how are they spaced out? Are they clumped together? Are they evenly spaced? Is it very tight spacing? How is that spacing done? And you can see here we have some clumping. Here we have even spacing. We have very tight even spacing. Those will all affect populations. All right, we have three types of survivalship curves, all right? And so this first one here in red, you see this one in red, this is what humans are, this is what elephants are, any large mammal tends to be this. And what it shows here is that when you are first born, and for a while, you don't kind of die off very quickly. You kind of live for a long time. These are the animals that take care of their young. Humans take care of their young, make sure that they're not dying, right? And then as you get older, we all start to die. Okay. Then you have this curve, right? This black curve here. And these are the types of animals where they just produce a bunch of babies, throw them out into the world, tons of them get eaten, and a few of them will survive. And once they kind of grow big, then they don't get preyed on a lot. You can see this with turtles, like turtles will just be born in mass and a bunch of the babies will get eaten up by seagulls and anything that eats a turtle baby. But once it gets kind of big, it kind of goes along and it doesn't die off until it dies of old age. But there's not a lot that will prey on something really big like that. And then you have animals that just kind of get killed their whole life at about an equal rate. And that's like a squirrel. Like if it's a pretty young squirrel or a pretty old squirrel, it's just as likely to get hit by a car or eaten by a dog or whatever. And they have sort of just a steady decline their whole life, right? So type 1, you're not likely to die until you're really old. That's us, whales. Type 2, you're likely to die at the same rate every day of your life. And type 3, you're very likely to die while you're young. You're small, you're preyed upon, but as you get old and big, nothing really preys upon you, so you're less likely to die. And we should all be feeling very familiar with this graph right now, which is the exponential growth model. This was done looking at bacteria, which is exponential growth, kind of goes like this. You start off small and then it just gets really, really big. Of course, we're all thinking about coronavirus and infection rate, and that looks the same, the rate of infection. It's if somebody infects 2 people, then those 2 people infect 4, and those 4 infect 8 and 16, and then 32, and then it gets really big. Well, that's how bacteria divide. Bacteria divides 1 to 2, right? Then 2 to 4. And pretty soon that exponential, that base gets really big and it just takes off. Okay. Limiting factors. Limiting factors are factors that will restrict a population's growth. So anything that limits it, the amount of food available, the amount of space available, anything that limits it is a limiting factor. And what happens is when a population is increasing and it kind of hits that limiting factor, it levels off because it can't increase anymore. And we call that right here the carrying capacity. Carrying capacity is the amount of individuals an environment can sustain long term. All right, multiple factors may limit a population growth. Factors like food, increase in predation, right? So the more predators you have, the death rate, birth rate, and then there's things like abiotic factors like weather. All these things can limit populations. The human population has started to do that exponential growth for a very long time. We were down here. This is billions of people, all right? And the plague caused this little tiny dip, and then we've actually shot up. We're up here now, and it's been exponential growth. we're over 6.4 billion as of today. So this is just shooting up. All right, birth and death rates affect your demographics. So here we have the birth rate, and here it decreasing. And then we have the death rate. And hold on, ignore this little spike for a second, but death rate is decreasing, and then they're starting to get closer together. All right, let's look at this little spike. You might notice this little spike, and it may seem very interesting. It's probably more interesting today than last year. What year was this little spike? Well, this is 1917, 1918. If you're thinking about coronavirus, this is the Spanish flu and World War I. This is Spanish flu, World War I came and just decimated the population. That's that little death rate spike. That's not a birth rate, death rate spike. Notice birth rates also go down because when people are stressed out and they're quarantined, shockingly, birth rates go down. All right, when we look at the age structure of a population, that's going to tell us its future growth. So Afghanistan has a lot of young people. They have a lot of young people. There's not a lot of old people in Afghanistan. You're kind of lucky to make it to 40 or 50, but they have a very high birth rate, lots and lots of young people. The US, these are the young people, right? So we have a low birth rate. And what happens is these layers kind of move up, right? As this layer in a few years of 0 to 4-year-olds become the 5-year-olds, it's a small layer. These guys die off at the top. Well, one that's, again, interesting to all of us this year is Italy's demographics. And notice they had a sort of large older population, not a lot of young people. And of course, coronavirus is hitting the old people really hard. This is one of the reasons why Italy's getting hit so hard, is there's just a lot of older people in Italy.